All right, there will be a section on your test about drawing angles. Okay, so first one is negative 460 degrees. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to be rotating down that direction. Okay, I already know that this is past an entire circle, right? Do we know how much past? How much more than a full circle are you going to be? That could be a mental math one, right? Does it make sense that we're going to go 100 more? Okay, so I'm going to draw like, pretend it's like snowboarding or something, where you're skateboarding. You're turning one circle plus 100 degrees more, and you're rotating backwards. So there's one rotation, and 100 degrees more. Well, I know that this is 90. So that. Does that make sense? State the reference. Okay, so from where I am right now, how much space is there from me to the closest x-axis? So what I want to know is the space in that spot. How much distance is there from me to the x-axis right there? And did you get 80 degrees? Because this is 180, this is 100, so if I subtract them, that's what I did in my head. 180 subtract 100. Okay, what quadrant is? So this is me thinking about the Astica stuff, so you probably want to have that memorized, right? The Astica. Okay, where is sign? Do we know what this even means? Negative. Less than 0 is negative. So give me 2 check marks for that. Where's sign negative? Bottoms. This is the same. Where is tan negative? So tan works diagonally. So give me the tan negative. So which quadrant worked for both things? This quadrant, but we're going to give it a quadrant number. And you got 4 choices, 1, 2, 3, or 4. Which number is it? This one. It's in the 4th. Do we know it starts like how you would do an angle, where it starts on an angle and it gets bigger? Okay, given the cos ratio, and it's not in quadrant 1. So first of all, let's just go with what quadrant am I in? Well, okay, well, yeah, it's not in quadrant 1. Cos is positive. 8 over 13 is positive. So then I'm in, got to be in that one. Okay, this is what I was given. Do you remember you have X, Y, R stuff, and you have a formulas, and you'll have a formula sheet on your test? This is the formula sheet you're getting on your test. Okay, so this is what you're getting. So in this corner, cos is X divided by R. So I'm in that quadrant, and my X is 8 and my R is 13. Okay, so I need that. So Pythagorean theorem, will I want to do a squared plus b squared or a subtraction Pythagorean? Subtraction Pythagorean. So don't use negative numbers. If there are negative numbers, don't use them while you're calculating that. Okay, so that is giving me 105. Does that square root nicely or not nicely? Not nicely, so I leave it. I don't want any decimals on these questions. Okay, let's look at that and then say, is it a positive or negative with what it's representing? If you had a point in this quadrant, it would be positive, negative y. X is positive, y is negative. It's below. It's down. Okay? This quadrant is right down. So that's why I'm positive, negative. Okay, so I need, what is the sign ratio? So I can look on my formula sheet on my test, and I have to write the y number over the r number. So the y number over the r number. And then it said get me the tan ratio. So the tan ratio is y over x. So the y number over the x number. On your test, what if you had these two numbers that were both negative? If two numbers divide with negative, you could write your final answer positive. All right, solving for angles. This is like 75% of the points on your test. Okay? First question. This is already isolated. Sine theta equals trig value. I got my three parts. So which quadrants would I be in? Sine, negative. 3 or 4. Okay, now I'm going to start thinking about the angle part. So I'm going to go into my calculator, and I think we're really good at understanding that that's where you go to, sine inverse. What's important about what you're sine inversing? What's my big rule? Don't do the negatives in the math. Do the negatives in the spots, the location. So 62.3. Okay, now this, all this number is representing is the reference. It's the reference angle. So that's all it's told me. It's telling me how far of a distance off the axis. So what is this actual amount? What is this actual amount? Okay, so this one, I think I'm going to do 180 plus that distance. Does that make sense with where we are? And with this one, I'm going to do 360 subtract that distance. Okay, so be careful on this test. Maybe I'll remind you when you're writing your test that a question like this would probably be worth 3 points. I'd say 1 point, did you get the quadrants and the reference, and did you get the answers? Okay, number 5. I have to do a little bit of algebra before I start trig stuff. Okay, so what's the algebra first? So I'm going to minus 3. And I'm going to divide by 5. Okay, this is where I actually get some people who stop their question because they think they're done. If you stop there, you're going to get a half point out of 4. So don't do that. Okay, remember what your final is supposed to be is like, what is the actual angle answer? That's what you're trying to get. That's going to be my final. What does the angle equal? So you have to get to that point. Okay, so my first thing is, where am I? Cos is negative. So your Astica, have that memorized. Okay, now to start angles, we do the inverse. And then I'm going to be careful what I'm typing. I'm only going to do 2/5. No negatives in there. Okay, that will always give me the reference amount. So this answer is, I'm going to do 180 minus that, and then that one I'm going to do 180 plus that. Okay, number 6, that was good. Okay, so let's just talk algebra before angles. What kind of algebra strategy? I think I'm recognizing simple trinomial algebra. Do you recognize it? You got to be able to recognize it from last unit. So 2 brackets. So I need a tan theta and a tan theta. Three times 1. One of them will be positive. Make sure you do them correctly to get a positive 2. Okay, so tan theta equals negative 3. And tan theta equals 1. Okay, now this will be in which 2 diagonals? Okay, I could have 4 answers here, by the way, when I'm done, because you have to do 2 separate things now. So tan inverse of 3, positive 3, 71.6. Okay, 108.4. right? 360 minus that. 180 minus that. It's behind. Okay, the next one, where is tan positive? Well, those two quadrants. Okay, this is going to be a nice pretty angle. Tan inverse of 1 is 45. So this is 45. And if you go 45 bigger than 180, it's 225. Okay, and I actually knew that without my calculator. Why would I know that? If you really want to think outside the box, tan is y divided by x. So I knew 45 degrees because x and y are the same number on my unit circle. So if I divide them, I get 1. Okay, 7. So I'm going to start complex trinomial strategy. So my FLA number is negative 21. So those are the multiples of 21. I don't think I'm missing any, do I? It's just 121, 37. Am I getting a 5? Nothing gets me a 5. What do I do? Quadratic formula. If it doesn't factor, I have the formula. So that's probably why you're going to have it on your formula sheet tomorrow or on Wednesday. Okay, so here we go. Instead of x, I'm going to write cos x equals negative b, so negative 5 plus minus the square root of b squared, 25. Subtract 4, bracket 3, bracket negative 7, all over 2 times 3. Okay, so don't memorize that formula, you'll have it. Alright, so now I would just like to go to my calculator and get this square root number. So please make sure you're typing, because sometimes on this quadratic formula, the typing in your calculator is half the battle. Okay, so we're going to be going into our calculators here, and remember what it looks like in your calculator. Okay, do you remember that? That's what it looks like, and you'll have to do it twice. And brackets would be important, or else it'll mix up your bed mass on you. Okay, this was us doing algebra. That's all we've done. We haven't done any trig stuff. That was just the algebra. Okay, so here's where I'm at. We did all the algebra, but this is what I'm at now. This is my trig stuff. Okay, so I'm going to start the trig with what quadrants? Cos positive, cos inverse to get a reference. So 24.5. Okay, does anybody know what I can write for this already? Because they remembered something. There's going to be no solution on this one, and you probably would figure that out eventually if it's okay. It's okay to start your work, but you will run into cos inverse, and then you'll end up with an error. Okay, cos and sine are limited between -1 and 1. So that's why it does not work. Okay, so this on your test, you're going to probably have a simple trinomial, a complex trinomial, quadratic formula. And an isolate. So I gave you an example of that, and that. We didn't do a complex, but make sure you practice one of those. Okay? So that's all from last unit, and then after you're done that piece, then you activate your trig stuff. Quadrants, reference, final. Okay? Okay, so you're gonna have this on your test. Tomorrow, you're gonna replicate it with a blank one. Okay, so we're gonna start here. 0, 30, 45, 60, 90, next would be 120, 135, 150. Okay, and you're not going to have a calculator doing this, so make sure you're practicing these numbers. 180. Okay, or you could do them all separately. You could say, what are all the 30s? So like this is 210, and this is 330. Okay, what are all the 45s? And what are all the 60s? Okay, I don't care how you put them on there, but as long as you know what you're doing. You can think that these go in 30, 15, 15, 30. I don't know if that helps anybody, like that method. Okay, my next recommendation is to put the 4 quadrant corners. So this would be 1, 0. This would be the coordinate 0, 1, -1, 0, and 0, -1. Okay, I do give you this on your test paper in the corner somewhere. I give you this. Okay, I will give you those numbers, so you just have to make sure you put them into the right spots. So this is what I do when I grade. So if you want to do this when you replicate it, so 0, and then I move to the right and put a half. And then I move to the right and I put √2/2. Then I move right and I put √3/2. and then the last is 1. Okay, reset to 0, and then I move left. So negative a half. Negative root 2 over 2. Negative root 3 over 2. Negative 1. Okay, so that's how I grade it. I put my fingers on your page when I'm grading, and I'm like boom, 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 boom. Did they put them all? Okay, then I reset here. Y is 0. So now from Y, 0, I move up. So this is me moving up to a half. Up, root 2 over 2. Up, root 3 over 2. And the highest is 1. Okay, and then move down, down, down. Okay, also there's some things you can check, because at the very end you'll probably want to say, maybe I'll just quickly check this over. So here's some things I could do. Did I make sure everything was positive, positive? Over here, did I make sure everything is negative, positive? In this quadrant, does it all look negative, negative? And in this quadrant, it should be positive, right and down. Positive, negative. Also, I'm going to look over on my test paper and I'm going to say, do all of those zeros and ones always get put together? Do those get put together? Do those get put with themselves? Okay, so those are some quick things you can look it over with. Okay, now this last section, you will not have a calculator for this page on your test. You will have a unit circle. So this is what you will have. Okay, so this is, okay, maybe I'll write this on the top. Okay, so I know this. I'll have my formula sheet with me. You'll have a formula sheet. So you'll have those on your formula sheet, and you're going to have a unit circle. Okay, so don't think about memorizing those things. Okay, now, what do I know if I'm using the unit circle? What do I know about my R? When you draw your triangle on the unit circle, R is 1. Are you okay in math if I can do that? Scratch the R off, because it will make me divide by 1. Does that make sense? And I don't really care to divide by 1. I'm not going to do anything. Okay, so sine of 150. So I go onto my circle and I see 150. So I'm going to take the y value, which is 1/2. That's the answer. That's it. Just grab the y value. And again, some of you might do this. Okay, that's fine. If you write that, that's fine, but just make sure you simplify it to be 1/2. Okay, negative 225. Where are you going to land? So this is back 90, back 180. What do you think about here? that make sense for a landing spot? Okay, so I'm looking on my circle. Where am I looking? I'm looking right here at 135. And I'm going to grab the coast. So I'm getting the x value. So here, what's the x value? Negative root 2 over 2. Okay, so I don't have a calculator. So how much past a full circle am I here? So 45. Okay, so when I look on my unit circle, this is what I see on my unit circle. That's not my answer. I get lots of people who write me the coordinates as the answer. That's not your answer. So the tan is to take the y divided by the x. So if I'm looking on my circle like that, there's the y divided by the x. And what do we just know about that answer? Just 1. Okay, do you see it? I could do more work and cancel and stuff, but the same number divided by the same number. That's what you're doing. Okay, 270. So here I am. And if I'm looking on my unit circle, this is what I'm looking at. Okay, I'm just drawing this because it was just really hard for me to have both of these things here. Okay, so here's what I'm looking at. So I have to take the y divided by the x. So negative 1 divided by 0. Okay, you do not have a calculator. What's going on in math when you divide by 0? It doesn't work. So the number is undefined. Okay? It's not a no solution because I'm not solving for anything. When you're trying to solve for something and it doesn't work out, it's a no solution. If I'm trying to tell you a number and the number doesn't work out, it's an undefined number. Okay, 180. So if I look at my unit circle, I'm looking like this. And there's a coordinate there. So what is cos? I would like the x over r, but really I just want the x. So negative 1. Okay, negative 270. Where are you? Where are you landing? Backwards, backwards. Did you figure out that you landed up at the top? Does that make sense? And sine. So what does sine tell me to find? The y. So my answer is 1. Okay, 270, or 270, sorry, 210, and you're looking at a unit circle. So that's what your coordinate will be that you're looking at. Okay, now you're going to do the math. So y divided by the x, that's what it tells me to do with tan. So the y divided by the x if I look at this right now, my answer is what? Positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive final answer. Okay, I'm going to do 1/2. Instead of dividing, I'm going to times and flip. Okay, I'm okay if you would have just kind of crossed those negatives out already. That would have been fine because you are understanding that they're going to cancel two negatives. Now, do you also see the 2 on the top and the bottom? Okay, so that would be, you'll for sure have one of those on there where I make you divide a full number. So please remember, in math, if you do 0 divided by a number, you get 0. If you do a number divided by 0, you get undefined. Okay? So 0 divided by something is 0. Okay, I probably should have reminded you on the solving equations. I might try to trick you with one of these questions. Remember, we've had some of them. When I'm like, hey, what quadrant are you in? You're not in a quadrant. So where are your answers? Your answers are somewhere on the line at that point, right? Remember that one? So you might have one of those on your test as well.